I have the age-old question here that I saw on one of the forums that I follow, forums of group page that I follow on Facebook. Question about UV filters. I made some videos about these before, but I really wanted to get into it, address it, especially since new people subscribed. I really wanted to get into it. I think it's very relevant and it should help a lot of people. I'll get to the question right after this. So here's the question. I want to read it. This was posted by someone named Danielle, and it just said, I just purchased the Tamron 24-70 2.8, and I'm thinking I should have put a filter on it to protect the glass. Very common. A lot of people think you need a filter right away when you buy the lens for general protection. Great thought. We'll get into it. I've never used filters before, but the front glass is so large and the hood isn't huge, so I'm afraid of scratching it. Any suggestions or advice? Thanks. Okay, that is a perfect question. So the 24-70 is a big lens. It's one of Tamron's most popular. It replaced their 28-75. Now, one of the first things you do is your first kit you buy, your first lens, you're going to get a lens, a UV filter shoved down your throat. There's so many filters out there, but I really want to talk about using cheap filters compared to big filters really quickly. The more stuff you have on the front of your lens, so you could have, here's your lens, if you decide to put on a UV filter or another filter, it degrades quality. There's less light getting to the sensor. And the problem with buying cheap filters, and here, I will jump into this right now. So an example of a cheap filter, Tiffin's a big one. You're spending $15. I mean, this is a BS price here because it'll never cost that much. But you're spending $15 on something that would protect let's see, how much is this lens? A $1,200 lens. Does that make logical sense? Absolutely not. And I did make a video that compared a cheaper quality filter to something that you would spend a lot of money on. So as I said, that's one of the huge things. A lot of problems you get with an off-branded filter, something you're not paying quality for, something with plastic in front of it, it's not even glass, is that it blocks out light and you're going to see just your image being degraded and the quality will not be as good. A lot of things might be soft, and a lot of lenses will hunt with terrible glass in front of it. Think of it as you're kind of shooting with a fence in front of you and you're trying to use autofocus. Not so good. So that's really something you want to keep in mind. It's cheap. It's there for protection. Now, one main reason I would justify using this, and this is how I kind of run my lenses, is I buy a cheaper filter. I will put it on my lens for travel, but as soon as I get to the spot I want, as soon as I get to the shoot, it comes right off, goes in the bag. Now, here is something that, this lens, this will probably cost usually about $150, $200. $80 is actually a decent price. B&W is a German branded company, and they make amazing filters. Now, your typical, professional threaded mount is about 77 millimeters, it fluctuates from there, but this is 82 millimeters, so you're getting a big thing, a big filter here for this lens, and it is pretty large. So do you justify, no, I'm not saying do you justify, is you have to justify spending larger money to get a UV filter that will not degrade your quality. So if you want to have it on your camera at all times, spend the money, spend the 80, as I said, which is very good, but spend the money, buy it right once, and you're done. But as I said, do you have to get it? You don't. And I don't like personally shooting with filters anymore in front of my camera. As I said, I ran the tests. I realized that filters just don't work. And I don't want to spend $150 on a filter yet. I mean, if it's something else, that's completely different. But that's just how I feel. I feel that your lens hood, which comes with your camera, and as I said, the other question is it doesn't seem long enough. It is. It is specifically made for your camera. So it is absolutely going to help. It's going to protect you from, just a general ding, some things that it might hit. So even though I guess it might seem shorter, I guess none of them do seem as protective. Definitely use it. It's going to help, and it does the same thing as majority of filters will do, because you can't necessarily get to the to the front of the element. And a lot of people say, oh, should the sand get to it, water or anything? Well, if a lot of filters, they're not necessarily tight, and that can get behind the filter anyway and get to your front element. And all you really need is your rocket air blower. You do a couple and it blows it right out of there. Quick lens wipe, and you're done. I felt that was a good question to bring up to look at. Should you get a lens just because it's forced down your throat because you think you need it? Well, as I said, it's really up to personal preference. I said my piece. I only use them for travel. I use a cheaper one. I do 100%, but I don't use them when shooting because it degrades quality. And I just don't feel like you should need a $150 filter per se. I mean, once again, it's personal preference. If you want to go for it, especially if you're paying for a $1,200 lens, put some good money towards a filter and you can go from there. Once again, that's just my general thought. Let me know your opinion down below. Just do not put cheap filters on, great glass that you have. It's going to be great quality and not going to perform well. That's all I got. Eric Rossi, the guy with the eye. Keep an eye out for cheap filters and dirt, sand, dust, and grime.